The England squad for the Six Nations 2022, the initial squad anyway, is out. 36-man squad named by Eddie Jones. Owen Farrell is captain. 6 new faces. We'll go through the squad. Have a quick chat about who's in, who's out, ages and caps, and yeah, we'll see how the squad is looking for the upcoming Six Nations, which is actually not too far away, pleasantly. There's no new faces in the front row, but there's certainly a few guys who can still be considered kind of new faces in the England camp generally. Some guys who made their debuts towards the end of last year. You got Blamire, Cowan-Dickie and George as the 3 hookers. Cowan-Dickie's probably the main guy, and George seems to have held on to his spot for a bit longer, because remember initially at the end of last year he wasn't named. It was only when Cowan-Dickie got injured that George was subsequently called up. So George is back in Eddie's good graces for now. He's the oldest of the 3 at 31. It's kind of a nice spacing as well. 31 for George, 28 for Cowan-Dickie, and 24 for Blamire. So in terms of ages, it's a fair gap. And the caps as well, 61, 31, 5. So yeah, in terms of depth building and how that's supposed to look, that actually looks pretty healthy. Genge, Hayes, Marler, Rod, Sinclair, and Stewart are your 5 props, 6 props, I can't count. And again, I think it's a pretty decent mix. Young in the scheme of things for props. Like the oldest guy is Marler. He's the veteran at 31. And props can go on well into their 30s. So, and he's still at the top of his game, Joe Marler. So, yeah, it's actually relative. I mean, you think Ellis Genge is only 26 years old. Still kind of coming into the peak of his powers. Sinclair's 28. So these guys are still getting better, which is, yeah, very pleasing if you're an England fan going into Six Nations this year and a World Cup in another year and a half. So, yeah, the other guys, Rod's only got a couple of caps. Stewart's kind of been there or thereabouts for a while. He accumulated 15 caps. And Hayes is another guy with 2 caps. So, yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix of experience and youth. Youth, if you can call it youth. I mean, Hayes is only 22, so that is genuine youth. Rod's only 21, so yeah, pretty good selection, I think, overall. We'll go through some of the omissions towards the end, but yeah, locks and loose forwards: Chesham, Yules, Hill, Itoje, Laws, Barbary, Curry, Dombrand, Ludlam, and Simmons. Sorry, that's a long list, but yeah, I mean, the more specialist locks, you got Itoje and Yules, plus Hill. The other guys like Chesham and Laws are kind of those hybrid guys. So, interestingly, Chesham being one of the new faces, Eddie has essentially said that he likes him as a lock loose forward. He wants him to kind of fill that Courtney Laws role, which is like, damn man, no pressure, because Courtney Laws has got pretty bloody big shoes to fill. But he's flirted with a few different guys in that lock loose forward role other than Laws, and hasn't really found anyone yet. But Chesham is kind of the next cab off the rank, so we'll see how he goes. He's still only 21. I can't imagine the starting locking duo being anything other than Hill and Itoje, but Eddie is known to surprise us, so we'll see how things go and then how the rest of the guys kind of fill out. Laws is the senior guy there with 32 years of age. In terms of the kind of specialist back rows, Barbary is another one of the newcomers to the squad, and he's been on absolute fire for Wasps. He's been doing that kind of blockbusting, ball-carrying thing, which he's quite known for. And it's good to see him rewarded. I mean, Eddie said that he's been tracking well for a couple of seasons. And sometimes that seems to be the way with Eddie. He doesn't reward guys just on a kind of short period. They've kind of got to earn it. But then other guys like Sam Simmons has been playing bloody well for ages. And it took him a long time to get back in Eddie's good graces for whatever reason. So he's there. Dombrand's still there. So you guys are spoilt for choice at number 8. And he's probably going to play bloody Tom Curry at number 8. But anyway, we'll see how things go. Yeah, whether you start Dombrand or Simmons or Curry at number 8 or Barbary, who knows? But you're spoilt for choice. What's crazy is when you think later, like how many Lucies have they left out? As a ton. A lot of international sides seem to be blessed with a ton of Lucies, and England is certainly no different in that regard. Backs, Quirk, Randall, and Youngs. Those are your 3 halfbacks. Now, Youngs is the most experienced by 100 miles with 100 plus caps, and then you got 2 guys there with 2 caps. So I hope Quirk or Randall or both get some actual decent time and don't just kind of play token minutes as Youngs comes off and they come on, and hope they get more than just time against Italy kind of thing, because Youngs has certainly been around the block and we know what he can do, but if he gets injured, you're looking at going into whatever campaign with a guy who's got 2 caps at international levels. Like I said before with the props, so the hooker 61, 31, 5 caps is nice. 112, 2 and 2, it just feels a little bit imbalanced. But anyway, we'll see what they can do. Fly halves, you got Orlando, Bailey, Farrell, and Smith. Remember I mentioned Farrell's captain. Bailey has been touted by Eddie as a kind of utility guy, covering 10, 12, and 15. And he said he sees him kind of having a pretty good season when Bath's been pretty terrible. Bath have only won 1 game all year. So the fact that he's managed to stand out on a team performing that kind of poorly reflects well on him. Farrell's the captain, and it's interesting because a couple of guys have been left out who are just coming back from injuries, and Farrell's not been playing either, but he's the captain, and Eddie just said he's the best man for the job. He's got the respect of the players, he's a winner, so he's the guy. So even though he might, if he wasn't captain, not be in the squad, because as I said, guys in a similar situation have not been selected who need more game time. Farrell seems to be the exception there. And then Marcus Smith is the only kind of specialist 10 in that lot, because as I mentioned, Bailey's there to cover multiple, and likewise Farrell covers 10, 12. The other guys, the midfielders and outside backs, you've got Atkinson, Marchant, Northmore, Slade, Hassel Collins, May, Knoll, Freeman, Furbank, Malins, and Stewart. There's a few guys low on caps in some of these areas and some veterans there as well. Hassel Collins is one of the new faces. Eddie basically said of him, he's big and he's strong. He's got the sevens background, and he's been playing really well for London Irish as well. Proper kind of excitement machine player. Freeman is the other guy who they've selected, and Eddie basically said that he's another one who he sees as a little bit of a utility. Fullback, potentially wing, and then even maybe in the midfield is what he said. So Eddie is quite focused on guys who can play more than one position. World Cup, that makes sense because you can only pick so many guys, so you've got more options open if you've got guys who can play multiple positions. But also, he mentioned the COVID factor, right? If you've got, think about it when Furbank had to jump into 10 when they had, was it COVID cases? And they kind of had limited guys to choose from. So Eddie's obviously keeping that into consideration as well, that if he has to make last minute changes, he's got guys who are versatile enough to kind of shift at the last minute. The other guys, Atkinson's one of the kind of weird standout guys in that he is 31, has only got 1 cap. I wasn't sure if Eddie would kind of give him another crack after giving him that 1 game last year, but he's back in the squad, so congratulations to him. Marchant and Northmore, the Harlequins guys. Northmore's another one who's one of the new faces, and to be fair, he's been in really good form as well, and I think Eddie's kind of just rewarding that. He keeps talking up the fact that he went to Cardiff Met Uni, so I don't know. Maybe that's because there was a bit of a social media furore about Wales not picking up on Dombrant, which was a little bit of a storm in a teacup, but anyway, Northmore's there. Slade's been in cracking form for the Chiefs in the midfield. He's just been pulling the strings really, really well, and goal kicking as well. Johnny May is one of your veterans there, which seems strange to say, but he is 31. And then Jack Knoll, pleased to see him. He's only 28. How's he only 28? He's been around for ages. Talking of guys who've been in electric form for the Chiefs, he's been everywhere. Like, he'll come off his wing and be cleaning out rucks, and you're like, where the hell did he come from? Yeah, he's been in electric form, so that's a genuine guy in form, gets his reward. Seemingly was on the outer, but back in the squad, I think, quite fairly. So, and then you're spoiled for choice at fullback with Furbank, Malins, Stewart, and then Freeman there as well. Stewart was the guy at the end of last year. Really safe pair of hands under the high ball, but he's another one who Eddie has already shifted out to the wing, at least in 1 game. And then Malins and Furbank playing at 15 for their respective clubs. Put him on the wing, I guess. Eddie is certainly not... he doesn't hesitate to put guys on the wing at international level, even if they don't play there at club level, if he feels they can kind of do a job in that instance. So, yeah, we'll see how things go. Guys who have been omitted, obviously you're thinking the veterans like the Vunipolas. Neither of them has made it, and then when that was brought up in the press conference, Eddie basically said people have got things to work on. So, yep, there you go. George Ford, I think maybe falls into the trap of he's a specialist 10. He's been in cracking form as well, but who do you take? If you're thinking specialist 10s and there's only room for one, do you take Smith or do you take Ford? Either way, it is going to get slaughtered by social media because people have been calling for Smith for yonks, and now that he's in the side and Ford's out, people will do the same for Ford. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Different players, but they're both really been at the top of their game, so I'm kind of happy. Either way, I'm sure Tigers fans will be pretty happy to keep Ford around, while the England's off doing their thing, because as I said, he has just been bossing the show. Guys who the door's not fully shut on is Underhill and Daly, like I mentioned, guys who are currently injured, who are on their way back, but for Eddie haven't had enough game time. Those are two of them, Elliot Daly and Sam Underhill. So he's not ruled out bringing them in towards the end of the tournament if they've got a bit of match time under the belt. Tuilangi, he said, has had a bit of a setback recently, so it didn't seem so positive when his name came up. Alex Mitchell, in terms of halfbacks, his last game for the Saints wasn't all that flash, so I feel like if there was any chance of him getting in the side, he needed to have a blinder in that game, but he didn't really get it done. So he's another one of those guys that's kind of there or thereabouts, but we do need somebody other than Ben Young's getting some caps. George Martin, Ted Hill, Callum Chick, these are all guys who have been in. Chick, I think, has played a bit of lock for England, right? But George Martin, especially in terms of guys, I don't think he's injured. He might be. It's hard to keep up with all the injuries. But yeah, there's been a few guys who have filled that lock loose forward void. But as I said, Chesham is the guy for the moment. So those guys are nowhere to be seen. Ben Curry, Ben Earl, those guys also not needed. But you guys have got an abundance of loosies. So yes, outside backs, Liner and Radwan. Newcastle haven't been in great form, so maybe that doesn't help in Radwan's favour. But Quins and Liner been playing pretty well. Keeps that Aussie door open. Odogwu in the midfield's just come back from injury, but he's another one of those guys that probably needs to get a bit more game time. But that also leaves that Italian door open. I think Liner might be. Is he eligible for Italy as well? I can't recall, but Obano and Lawrence, those guys have been injured, so probably not considered. Average age of the squad, 25 and a half, so it's a decent age if you're thinking about them being kind of 26 and a half, maybe 27 going into a World Cup. 25 caps is the average number, so as I said, it's a proper mix of guys like Laws and Ben Youngs who've got, Jamie George have got more than 50 caps, closing in on 100, and then other guys like Atkinson 1, Marchant 7, Northmore none. Quirk and Randall 2. Sam Simmons has only got 9, and even though he's kind of 27 years old, so there's a lot of guys in single-digit figures for international caps in the squad as well. But yeah, we will see how things go. You guys let me know what you reckon. Who are the most egregious omissions? The squad will no doubt change between now and the Six Nations as guys get injured or guys perform poorly in training and get shunted out of the because this is just the initial squad. Get out of the squad. Some guys will certainly be called up, but you guys let me know what your thoughts are. Who of those 6 new caps are you most excited to see going? I think England Rugby Store has probably got New England gear out. Check if they're having a sale on. I'll put a link in the description for them. But otherwise, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.